County State Legislator Brad Zahn and what happened in the legislature, what we can see in the future, and some of the other political hotbed topics across the country. Tom Coates is in the house. I'm Mac, and that's Today Live on Mac's World Live.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
4 minutes after the hour on this, the 9th day of July in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McCoy, View from a Pew with Mac's World this afternoon here on 99.3 KTIA, powered by WebcastOneLive.com. Tom Coates in the house, and our special guest, one of our regular special guests, which we always enjoy having, Brad Zahn. And I know what I want to start with today. Tell me why this thing with the governor and the speeding is causing the Des Moines Register and every TV station to make it the lead story. I mean, even Vilsack on the Sunday show with Dave Price said it's not a big deal. It happens. It happens all the time. We have to get somewhere fast. That's just the way it is. I did it. Everybody did it.
Well, I would probably be guilty, not as in the driver of the vehicle, but when I was running for Congress, I know how hard it was with a tight schedule. I'm in the back seat making phone calls, signing letters, writing out thank you cards. You're not paying attention to what's going on there now. Was it right what the governor did or the governor's trooper did? Probably not right. I mean, they should probably obey the same rules. But I think I heard today something that was 84 mile an hour in a 70 mile an hour speed limit, which I think everybody's just making a huge deal. I mean, Come on, let's talk about some more serious issues. I think that the governor has communicated he's going to attack the problem, and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Mistakes happen.
Well, let me ask you this. My bride and I are married 3 years, and we're 25 years old, and she's expecting our first child, and the water breaks at home, and we're unprepared, so I'm speeding down 235 to get to the hospital.
Right.
Do I get a ticket from the policeman for that?
I don't know what the code is. I think that's what I like about having interaction with police officers is a police officer could pull you over rather than a camera and realize that there's a situation there.
Right.
Probably would escort you down to the hospital. Right. So I would say that there should be some leniency in regards to this.
I mean, where's the common sense? I mean, again, it was above the fold. Front page today in the Des Moines Register.
Again, you think he'd murdered some poor Democrat and buried him out in back of Terrace Hill the way they're playing this thing up.
It's the thing that I love you, brother, but it's this thing I hate about your business. When there's nothing good to talk about, we're going to make something up.
Well, it must be a slow news day, and that's exactly the reason why I don't subscribe to the Des Moines Register.
I don't blame you.
I just... News, reality is important, but news after a while gets pretty old and it gets insignificant compared to some of the more important things in life.
Well, Kathy Obradovich wrote in the paper today, this is not going away. I mean, that was the lead of her column. Why wouldn't it go away? There's nothing here. And now at least they said in today's paper that the fellow was put on suspended leave, was already in trouble before this ever happened. That this, in fact... As I read the article, it sounded like he had been approved for a vacation day when he called in when apparently the vehicle passed him on the interstate, and he called it in and said, what are you doing driving a state vehicle on your vacation day? Yeah. So, I mean, he has a string of problems that he was being disciplined for. This, of course, up until today, they made it sound like he was being suspended because he had blown the whistle on the governor, which apparently was not the case.
No, it was other instances. But that won't be the headline tomorrow. It won't be, state official in trouble long before he was.
But I did read that in their article today, and it almost like it pulled back from everything else they've been writing about.
Well, Yeah.
So maybe they're seeking to try to balance it out before they drop the story. Let's hope that's the case.
I'm just amazed, though. All right, the other story is Tyler Olson announced today. Did I say that? Tyler Olson?
I know who Tyler is, yes.
He's coming out today, came out yesterday, rather, and announced he's going to run for governor on the Democratic side.
I know Tyler very well. I've done a lot of programs like this with Tyler. I respect him, and I know he's a hard worker from the people of Cedar Rapids. I'm not surprised whatsoever. I've always thought that he's had higher ambitions, and I don't fault him for that. But I think the reality is no one is going to defeat Governor Branstad. I don't care who you put up against him. I think his chances are slim to none, as well as anybody else that gets in that race against Governor Branstad. He wins elections. He's never been beat. And certainly, I guess, I would say good luck to Tyler. He's a nice young man, but I'm going to be supporting Governor Branstad.
Well, were you surprised when now the only one that I could see that might have a shot would be Vilsack. Mm-hmm. He said he passed on this early on, said no thank you. What do you think's going on in his mind?
I think, he's got a big responsibility in Washington, D.C. His ag budget has just exploded under the Obama administration.
Read that food stamps for the most part.
Correct. He must like it out in Washington, D.C. I served with, Governor Vilsack and didn't always get along with him, but I think he's, has a good relationship. And to be honest with you, I think that he would be the only person that could give Governor Branstad a run for his money. But I'm glad he's staying in Washington, D.C. And
do you think he is because he views that as a very difficult race and he would perhaps rather step in? Now, I've been told that he doesn't want to be a U.S. Senator. I think he could have had the Senate seat if he'd wanted. Braley would have been the second banana to Vilsack. Mm-hmm. But he didn't want that he wants an administrative role, which means, i.e., governor, at some point. Does he wait 4 years after Branstad takes it and figure he'll beat perhaps a Kim Reynolds or somebody else that runs at that point? Is that his thinking?
Well, I don't know, and I'm not very close to Governor Vilsack.
Well, but I'm just speculating.
I would just say that you have not seen the last of the Vilsack.
That's
family.
what I think too, and it's not Christie, it's Tom. And if the administrative position he wants, then I don't think he thinks he can make president anymore. He stuck his toe in that water once.
Yeah.
So at some point he has to say, well, when's the right time to run for governor? Not against Branstad, where I'll get beat, but against maybe a Kim Reynolds or somebody else, not in 14, but in 18.
I think it's obviously a huge possibility.
Now, Branstad can run for 3, or is 2 the limit?
He can run for as many terms
as he wants.
But practically speaking, given the man's age and everything else.
How old is he? I don't really know.
He's 60 what now?
Is he 65?
No, I'd say he's under 70, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
He really likes what he's doing. I'm going to tell you what, he is a hard worker. Mm-hmm. He's very passionate. I don't think that there's any public servant out there or anybody that's going to run for public office that would work any harder than Governor Branstad.
I agree. But there's where Vilsack was pretty good, too. He was actually a fairly hard worker, as contrasted with our most recent sitter in that seat, Culver, who was probably one of the laziest men that we'll ever see in that seat.
I can only comment about, he is... Governor Branstad's a hard worker.
Yeah.
I don't really know that Tom Vilsack, I didn't witness that when I was
But I think Vilsack was I think he did his homework. I think he read the pieces. He was actually a fairly hard worker. And then we had Chuck Culver, who didn't get up till noon.
Well, I don't know about that. So.
He just loves to pound on Culver. Yeah. I mean, if the guy owned the restaurant chain, he'd probably picket it or something. Here's what Vilsack said on Dave Price's show on Sunday. Okay. The Newsmakers, is that what that's called? Yeah. John Bachman's old show?
Yeah, Bachman's old show. They kind of changed the format a little. It's more of a one-on-one.
Okay.
First of all, it's live, which most people don't realize. I've been on it a couple times.
Yeah. Oh, it is live? Yeah, okay. Vilsack said, listen, I've got the greatest job in the world, representing the passion that I love, which is agriculture. Mm-hmm. In an administration that lets me do what I need to do for the food producers and consumers in our country. Why would I give that job up? Plus, I guess he just permanently moved to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I think his wife got a job out there in D.C., too, which would argue, again, against a quick move back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're right.
Yeah. But will Olson fragment the Democratic Party in the eastern part of the United States and weaken Braley? Because Braley's from the Quad Cities and Olson's from Cedar Rapids.
No, wait. Are you getting the
really-
two races? Isn't Olson going to get in and run for governor?
Yeah, against...
Braley's going to run for the Senate seat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now,
You're right.
Jack Hatch is going to run here. Now, that would be perhaps a bit of a dust up. How do you see that primary shaping up and the two of them go head to head?
I would think that, if I was a Democrat, I would probably be looking at, I think that, Tyler might be a more attractive candidate. And certainly I know Jack Hatch. Jack is, both these people are not well known outside their districts. They got a lot of work to do. But I hope it does fragment the Democratic Party in the state of Iowa. But I'm going to guess, my prediction would be that it looks to me like Tyler's, I've done the Insider show with Dave Price, and the beginning of the year, he certainly had some ambitions and clearly communicated at the show. But I predict that Tyler will run for governor and Jack Hatch would back out.
Okay.
Really?
All right, well,
That's
that's
my
why I
prediction.
asked the question.
Because he's doing
Back
more
out or lose in the primary?
Well, I say back out. And the only reason, and I don't have any inside information other than Jack has kind of just said, I'm going to do a sound, kind of a tour of just kind of listening to people. And I'm forming an exploratory committee where, from what I've heard, is that Tyler has said, hey, I'm running for governor. And I think really as someone that wants to run for something, you got to either get in or get out and don't do this sticking your toes
But
in the
that's kind of
water.
how Hatch operates. I bumped into him a few weeks ago doing the Jan Michelson show, and isn't that kind of how he's not as decisive, perhaps, as some people might be?
Well, what I've witnessed with Jack is the way he communicates and votes in the Iowa Senate is complete opposite of how he communicates to people outside of the Capitol.
Okay.
Reminds me
and
of
that
Barack
happens
Obama.
to a lot of people that I serve with.
Okay. All right.
They put on a public face.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I've seen it time and time again where I've actually been to town halls or wherever, all over the state of Iowa when I was running for Congress, where they're saying one thing to their constituents in their home district, but when they go up to the Capitol, they're voting a different way.
So he's talking more moderate out on the stump and voting very liberal.
Absolutely.
Yes, okay.
Jack Hatch is one of the most liberal, if not the most liberal member of the Iowa Senate.
Wow.
And I would, I don't know Tyler.
Joel Bolcom? Even to the left of Joel Bolcom?
I say that he is definitely on equal ground.
Okay, that's saying something.
And I like Joe a lot. He's a good friend of mine. We don't agree on a lot of issues, but he's a good person. This isn't about liking someone. Everybody has passion. I prefer someone to just stand in my face and tell me exactly where they're at on the issue, even though we disagree. But this is really about what direction we want to take the state of Iowa and some of the problems that we face if we don't make changes.
Brad Zahn is our guest today, along with Tom Coates, and there is someone more liberal than Jack Hatch, and that's Father Tattoo. There is no one more liberal and heathenistic than our own producer.
Why are you trying to goad me onto the air?
Father Tattoo.
He's
I'm not
always
liberal.
been very nice to me.
Of course,
time I've
liberal.
been
Just like
here,
Jack Hatch, he's got a public face,
I
and
love
then he's got
God
a
and
private
guns.
We've
face.
How
never
can I
had
be
any
liberal?
conversations about that.
Of course, you would not
I
have.
love God, guns, and
Guy was
cigars.
taking
I
a
don't know how
nap.
you can be liberal.
You're poking a stick at him. He was in there just minding his own business, and here you're bothering.
Well, so what he does, though, is he comes right at the end. And he controls all the buttons, so he can shut me off if he wants. Then he comes in.
Did he just do that?
All right. Then he comes in at the end and just says whatever he wants when the show's over. All right. Here's what I want to talk about when we get back. How does Iowa and what happens on Capitol Hill in Iowa compare to the divisiveness that we see in Washington? Okay?
I'm ready.
I want to talk about that because I'm ignorant. I'm ignorant of how it is in Iowa. I'm fairly well informed how it is on the national level. So we'll talk about that. Brad Zahn is in the house, and there we are, Coates. There's our 2012 running for president again. Tom Coates is in the house. Father Tattoo is producing, and we thank you for being here. I love my job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here on KTIA, powered by Webcast One Live.
Tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Like right now. Name it.
Did you feel anything?
Yeah.
You did?
Some pain. No pain at all.
I was dealing with some back issues due to the profession that I'm in, and right now they're gone.
I have a sickness called Graves' disease, but
Well, hi. My name is Mike Ahmed, and I host the show Bridge the Gap Ministry. Our vision is to bridge the gap between cultures. And what we use the Word of God. And because His riches in that Word and the wisdom is what brings us together. So we learn the Word, we speak the Word, and we practice the Word on this show every Thursday. Don't miss it. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Poke. 21 minutes after 3 on the 9th day of July in the Lord's year 2013. Father Tattoo said I shouldn't be poking the bear.
Well, that's what I said. I said he was in there minding his business. He was taking a nap. He wasn't bothering anybody, and all of a sudden you poked him.
He wasn't doing his job. At least now he's paying attention. You're right. He was taking a nap.
I wasn't taking. What job was I not doing?
I'm just. Where's my name? My name isn't up there.
You want your name up there?
Where's Brad's name? Where's Tom's name?
There's your name.
I'm not a former U.S. presidential candidate.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. You'll always be a former U.S. presidential candidate.
I am an arrogant Nebraska fan. That's what I am. Brian Leach. Oh, there we go. Good.
By the way, those Cornhuskers are going to go down this year to the Hawkeyes.
Thank you, Brad.
How much?
Well, I'm not going to.
Side of beef.
No, my son is transferred from UNI to Iowa to play football.
Your son did?
Yeah. He's
Okay.
gonna be 2 years eligibility
And
left.
so what I'm hearing from you, Senator Zahn, is that your son Not the $3 million a year coach, not the entire staff or all the facilities. Your son, Zachary.
No, that's Drew.
Drew is going to be the hero and the star player for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
I'm not going to make that prediction. I just got to know some of the kids. I love the coaches, including the head coach.
Yeah.
And very professional organization. And by the way, for all the Hawkeye fans that worry about the kids getting in trouble, his workouts, as well as everybody else, is 5 o'clock in the morning every morning.
Good.
Keep those kids out of trouble.
Good.
But I am proud of my son, and
You
he's
should
transferring to UNI.
That's
and I had to
pretty
give
cool.
you a hard time because
That's
the
all
Ford
right.
Huskers are on the schedule.
That's all right. That's all right. Let me tell you something. I moved here in 78, and from 78 to 2001, whatever it was, we played, the Cornhuskers and the Hawkeyes played twice.
Yeah.
And it was 1-1.
Yep.
And you pesky Hawkeye fans just irritate the living heck out of me. Because I could never figure out why you thought you were so good. And I'd always look at a Hawkeye fan and say, how many national championships have you won? So now at least we're on the schedule together, and it's the last game of the regular season. And it's a great way for me to celebrate Thanksgiving. I tell you that. So far, it's 2-0.
Hey, I was a UNI Panther fan. We'd be having this argument last year about the Panthers. You get behind your kids' schools.
I agree.
So.
I agree. I'm somewhat ignorant on what happens on the Iowa Capitol Hill. I follow, but I don't follow like I do in Washington. And it's a choice that I've made. I could certainly say next legislative season I'm going to stick my claws into the Iowa legislature like a Dace does or a Simon Conway or some of those guys. But from where I sit, what I see in Washington is deadly. I see it a sibling rivalry that has turned into a civil war that America is going to pay the ultimate price. And all the players are just going to walk away with their pensions and their retirements, and they're going to say, gee, I don't know. That was a long time ago. Is it that way on the Iowa House, too? Is it that decisive?
It's not that way. You know, the biggest difference, I would say, between Washington, D.C. and Iowa legislators is we're not making a living out of it. We're certainly not getting rich about it. We certainly... it's a different mentality out there. And like I mentioned before, I ran for Congress. I was out there for a week. I couldn't wait to get out of there because it's so dysfunctional. And what people don't realize is the elected officials that we elect out in Washington, D.C., when you're out there and you kind of stand behind them and stand with them, you know, in regards to job shadowing them, they're treated like royalty. It's unbelievable the benefits that they have.
Yeah.
And a great example is each congressman gets 2 license plates for 2 different cars. It allows them to do whatever they want to do. They could park in front of a fire hydrant. They could park in a fire lane. They could get an OWI. They will not be prosecuted for that. The other thing that was really surprising is the amount of money they're budgeted. It's over $1 million each member of Congress gets budgeted for their travel for the year. And that's not to mention their extensive staff. I mean, anywhere from 20 to 50, depending on your position, staff members that you have that are working for you. And quite frankly, they get out there. They are treated like royalty. You see what they get away with in regards to their benefit package, which is certainly not fair at all. And that's why
Nancy
they never
Pelosi
leave.
wanted a plane comparable to Air Force One to haul her sorry keister from D.C. to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're right. I mean, the boondoggles that take place there, and then, of course, they give a little bit back to the people, just like they've done. We talked about food stamps for a second in the earlier segment. We nearly doubled the recipients on food stamps. We've got 47% of the adults in this country now receiving some kind of federal benefit, subsidy, benefit, something. So we've got the 47% that Mitt Romney inadvertently spoke about. It was caught on camera that redounded to his detriment, is actually the percentage of people, of adults in this country, that are on the federal dole in some fashion. And so he was exactly right. How do you expand dependency to this degree, Brad, and hope then to take back power from the party that expanded it?
We did it, and what's unfortunate, I voted against the Medicaid expansion. I'm all for helping someone out that is less fortunate than myself. Actually, even just giving them a hand up instead of a handout, like a lot of people say. The problem that we have is I work with someone that is from the UK. And he said, Brad, all you have to do is go to Europe and look what we did and the lessons we're learning now. And the United States is behind that curve. And what happens is, and this is what the governor was talking about a lot at length when we were fighting this Medicaid expansion, which is another 153,000 Iowas that are going to be added to our benefit rolls. And when you take away, one day the banks are going to say, the Chinese are going to say, that's it, America, you're cut off, you're not going to get any more money. And some of the other foreign investors that hold our notes are going to say, no, we're bankrupt right now. We are going to be shut down, and we're going to have to make tough decisions. Someday we're going to have to do that. When that happens, you cut back on those benefits. And when you do that, that's why the rioting and everything that's happening in Europe. But to answer your question about Iowa versus the nation's capital, I would have to say in the Iowa Senate, we agree on probably 98% of all the bills. The press and everybody reports on when we disagree on things. It is certainly less partisan than what I experienced in Washington, D.C., but there's still a lot of partisan behavior that's going on. I mean, what's been very frustrating to me, and I know my wife, when she was my clerk the first time, she figured, you go down there, you're going to change the world, you're going to make all these things. Well, one, remember, you're one out of 150 people. But the other thing is, if you're in the minority, you do not get any legislation moving forward. Well, as you go, you're down there longer. What I've done is I've created some relationships across the aisle. I just say, hey, take my bill, take my amendment, you sign it, don't even put my name on it, and run with the darn thing. Because in the end, it doesn't really matter. In the Iowa code books, it doesn't say Brad Zahn did this or any individual did that. You know. And secondly, I do believe that we get along pretty darn good down there. I have a lot of Democrats that are very good friends, and I think the world of them. Some that I don't like. Heck, there's some Republicans that I don't like, that I don't trust. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I do believe that the environment is better. And in the end, I'm not a big compromise person, but there was a lot of legislation that was crammed through at the end, and some good for Iowans, such as the property tax reduction bill and income tax reduction that we did. We did some things in mental health, which I was pretty proud of, but I did not support the Medicaid expansion. Absolutely want to throw up over the education reform and vote against that. But there was some bipartisan things that were going on. To answer your question, one thing I would tell you is when the governor signed all those legislation, there was bipartisan legislators standing behind him when he signed those.
So it's better in Des Moines on Capitol Hill than it is in Washington.
From what I can tell, I think it is.
Okay. Brad Zahn is our guest, Iowa State Senator, and Tom Coates in the House today. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and we're just talking about some of the stuff that's going on that does impact you. If you think political talk is boring, I'm sorry. That's because I'm probably not doing it well enough. But it does impact you. It's the stuff you whine about at church. It's the stuff you complain about when you're sitting having tea and you're sitting fishing with your grandpa. This stuff does matter. And unfortunately, generational, we don't get it. We don't connect. My generation and my grandson's generation has different values. And it seems by the time that my grandson gets to my generation, my age, then he has the same concerns that I have now. So how do we overcome this gender difference, Brad, that young kids believe that everything's okay. If it feels good, do it. And the government ought to support me in everything that I do. And by the time you get to be a 40-year-old man or woman raising kids, you realize it's not the government's deal.
Well, first of all, it's our generation that is the most irresponsible generation in the history of the United States.
You mean Tom's generation?
I'm talking about the people that are out in D.C. that are serving us right now.
Yeah.
This behavior has been taught down the road. Now, I truly believe that this new generation, because I've got 5 kids, I feel very, very optimistic about, because some of the ideas, yes, they think differently than we do. It's like the traffic cameras that I always talk about. You know what? That isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. I see that truly as a generational thing. The older people like them, the younger people don't. I really believe that some of this libertarian movement that's going on with the younger people, they're just sick and tired of Republicans and Democrats, from what I can tell. But I think that there's a lot of them that are paying attention. I have 5 kids, and 4 or 3 of them that are very passionate about politics. That are, I don't agree with them on everything, but they're paying attention to what's going on. There's a lot of more different ways of communicating than we were used to. I mean, they got a handheld in their, in their hand at all times. So I feel the opposite. I think that we are the crappy people. We've taught them some bad things, and we've spent their future. And I think that this next generation that's coming up is going to be a bright generation. And I'm very hopeful of that, and I feel that it's going to happen.
Do you think that generation's going to cut taxes or raise revenues?
I think that generation's going to have to cut. I think they're going to have to cut expenses is what they're going to have to do.
Okay.
Raise revenues, not my kids. I think they're going to go in and they're going to cut to the meat, to the bones, what they're going to do. But they're not so wound up about some of the issues. Like I believe in a marriage between one man and one woman. I am very passionate about pro-life issues. All my kids are pro-life. They could care less about the marriage thing.
Right.
And they're different. They're different, and I really feel optimistic about what might happen.
Well, you see what's happening down in Texas right now, where Governor Rick Perry has called the legislature back into a special session to get issue with this abortion thing. Maybe we want to talk about that at some point, Mike.
Yeah, and he also announced he wasn't going to run.
He's not going to run for governor. He hasn't said about the presidency. The thing that happened last time, you remember, Mac, when we expect such a big splash, we got such a little splash. He had that back surgery, and the talk was that he was on medication, and it really muddled his brain trying to come in here and in a very heavy competition. He just wasn't up to it, and it was too soon after his operation and the medication. I think if we see a full-bore Rick Perry, we could see a very formidable candidate on the presidential level.
All right, we're going to take a break. We've got phone lines open at 1-855-244-0077 if you'd like to talk to our guest, Senator Brad Zahn or Mr. Tom Coates. Don't forget, tomorrow is Testify, and one of the board members from the Faith Initiative in the George Bush administration and Obama administration, Dr. Garland Scott, will be here. It's incredible pizza from about 11:45 to 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Hear his story and what he thinks In God We Trust means in Washington in 2013. That's Testify tomorrow, live at Incredible Pizza, brought to you by 99.3 KTIA, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave, and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We're the ones in the pew, not pulpit. Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 22 before the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then it's Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church, and True Blue. Brad Zahn is my guest, along with Tom Coates and Father Tattoo producing. Let's go to the phones. You'll have to run it from in there, please. We've got Tim on the line, and we're not changing subject, really, because we've been talking about generations and how our generation, Brad thinks our generation really messed it up, and the new generation coming up, it has the fortitude, the moral fortitude to try to fix some of these things. But Tim, you've got an interesting comment and question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mac. I mean, you know my passion, as Brad was just alluding to. I mean, it's pro-life.
Yep.
I think that's that's the most important issue. I think it's critical. But and a lot of people, a lot of cheerleaders for the party were really unhappy. On election day or on Wednesday morning after election day, and I wasn't thrilled either. I didn't have my eyes fixed on Washington so much because I didn't see a huge difference there. But, locally, I would have liked to have seen some more victories. But I think, and from that point on, it just really has hit me, and it's kind of been kind of the undercurrent behind the pro-life thing, because I think that they're all interconnected, is we as men, we're called to be the leaders in our family and in the church, and by extension, the church has really failed this generation, the last generation, probably the one before that, by tickling ears, getting as many people in the seats as they can, not preaching on these important things. Brad, you talked about your kids not really caring about who gets married to who, and I sort of get that to an extent, except that falls at our feet. That's us not teaching our kids God's word and those type of things. And if we can't preach it, and we sure as heck aren't living it, look at the 50% divorce rate, and I'll put my hand up right there. I'm remarried. We're not doing a good example. We're not preaching. We see a lot of hypocrites out there, hollering about marriage, or we're hollering about things, and we're not doing what we're doing. I think we look like hypocrites when we're passing these half measures on abortion. We can't, it seems pretty cut and dry. It's either a baby or it's not. And if it's in rape and incest, then it's okay. Or if it doesn't feel pain, then it's okay. And I think kids see through that hypocrisy. My wife's a teacher, and she says kids know when you're fake. And if we're getting divorced and we're cheating on our wives and we're cheating on taxes and we're not standing up for the life of the unborn, the kids are going to see right through that. And that falls directly at our feet as men, as leaders of the family and the church, in my opinion.
Tim, just so you know, I know we're Facebook friends. Go on Facebook, and I posted a video today about medical and scientific proof that a 7-week-old child still in the womb can feel and will be impacted by pain within their nerves.
I saw that, Mac, and I haven't had a chance to watch it.
It's really good. It's not the Kool-Aid. It's just a fact. It's just all these scientists coming forward and saying, hey, the fact of the matter is when this child is still in the womb and 7 weeks developed, when you prick it, when you cause it to feel pain, it reacts.
Yeah. The thing I have with the fetal pain deal, which is just, to me, it makes so much sense, is we're going to trust somebody who has no problem with ripping that baby out of its womb to say that it can't feel pain or it doesn't have a heartbeat or whatever. Or if it feels pain, we'll just give it some morphine. Then it won't feel pain, and then we'll go ahead and do the procedure. Or at 20 weeks, we can't do anything, but at 19 weeks and 6 days, it's okay. And that, to me, just is the hypocrisy that just screams, that we're not staying consistent on these issues.
Well, Tim, this is Brad, and I certainly agree with a lot of the points you made. We obviously, I don't know that there's as many people that go to Mass, families that go to Mass on Sundays or Saturday nights and throughout the week. I don't know of a lot of families, or I know of some families, but it just seems like there's been a breakdown in the family. You mentioned about divorces, but when we try to, my wife and I try to, when we have the kids, when they don't have a bunch of different activities. And when I was a kid, there was baseball, there was football, there was wrestling. We didn't have soccer or anything like that. There just wasn't as many distractions and activities for kids to get involved in. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but the time around the kitchen table, when you're with your family, to have the conversations, about these important issues. The second thing is, that's why elections are so important. I mean, we lost a seat by under 200 votes in a race a little over a year ago, or a little less than a year ago. That would have put us at a 25-25 tie. We had another seat that we lost by 300 votes. That would have put us in the majority. When we're in the majority, we can make a lot of inroads. But the most important thing that I think people don't realize is, if you are a Republican, you should act like a Republican. There's been many times when we've had, I think, conservative issues or amendments, because we're in the minority, where we haven't got 100% of the people that are Republicans. So it's really important that you ask the people that say they're Republicans where they stand on these particular issues, and then hold them accountable once they get in there. But you're exactly right. We've got a lot of problems with the family, and really, I think it's a breakdown of the family.
Well, let's talk about the breakdown of the family. I hear Tim's message resonating back in the old days with Gary Rosberg, and America's Family Coaches, Cross Trainers. What is the rate of illegitimacy now, guys? I mean, it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, but not only the black and the minority community, but in the white community. What number of children are being born to women that are not married to the guy? Maybe they may be shacked up with him, but they're not married to him. And once the society went to the point, and I think it does tie back to Tim what was saying in regards to the Roe v. Wade decision back in the early 70s, is that once you took that responsibility away and the women no longer held the guys accountable, well, they weren't going to be accountable. Through the ages, what's made the guy accountable was the fact that the women said, I'm not going to have sex with you unless you do a commitment here. There's no commitment now. They're just shacking up one after another, and they're going to have a baby, and some of these have 5 babies and 5 different guys. And how are you going to get the kind of thing that Tim's talking about, or society should have, without that level of commitment? I think that's where a lot of this starts from. Moynihan, I think years ago wrote that if the area of illegitimacy that was spreading so quickly in the black community spread to the white community or surpassed, and I don't remember what the percentage was, he said our society is lost, and that's certainly proven to be prophetic.
A couple of points, and then I'll get out of the way here for somebody else. But one, I go hang out. I go see Gary Rosberg every Wednesday morning almost. He's in South Africa right now, but so I go to that. So I know some of those statistics. I've been through the men's fraternity groups. Right now, I believe the statistic is, in just the average, the national average is about 40% illegitimacy. In the black community, I think it's as high as 70 and 80%. So that's point one. Brad, you were talking about Mass, and on the Catholic side, I know they've had lots of problems, some of their own problems, but the fact that somebody like Nancy Pelosi or Tom Harkin can still go and participate in communion. When what did she say a couple of weeks ago, that it's sacred ground or something like that? It just goes to that hypocrisy. You talk about acting like a Republican. I don't know if you guys remember during the Tea Party big uprising, a lot of the parties wanted these Tea Party people, if they lost, that they wanted them to sign loyalty clauses. And I've said since that day, why don't we have people that are going to run as Republicans sign a loyalty clause to the platform, for crying out loud? We can't even get them to follow the platform. The number one platform is life.
Or Obama goes to Planned Parenthood and said, God bless Planned Parenthood.
Sure, and that's obviously we're talking about a Democrat on that side. I'm just talking about the Republicans. For
I understand.
We can't keep them straight.
And as a Catholic, I can tell you that the encouraging news for me, and I've been very upset and had many conversations with the bishop here in town about some issues that I thought they needed to be stronger on. The new pope that was elected gives me some encouragement. Because seems like he's going to be hard line on these really important issues. So you make very, very good points. And God bless the priest that said to Tom Harkin, I will not give you communion because of your stand on abortion. And that needs to happen more often.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell. Well, we'll talk about it when we come back. Brad Zahn's our guest, Tom Coates, along with Father Tattoo. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. When we come back, how about church and the politics? Is the pulpit going to become politicized and politically correct? That's next, live here on The View from a Pew on KTIA, Iowa.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
I'm Michael Libby. I'm the host of Insight on Business, the News Hour. We're seen live at 8:45 each Monday morning at Webcast One Live or whenever you want on my blog or on the internet. So what qualifies me to talk about advertising, marketing, and consumer trends? Well, it's my business. Insight Advertising, Marketing, and Communications has helped dozens of companies, small, medium, and large, learn how to use advertising correctly. And we pass that information on to you each and every week.
Hi, I'm Doc. You listen to me every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on Doc and Lefty radio podcast program, where we discuss all the relevant topics of the day, including state, local, and national politics. My partner in crime, Lefty, often likes to have a little bit of conservative justice served upon him, so please turn in for the fireworks every week from 6 to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays at webcastonelive.com. Thank you.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 10 before the top Salem Radio Network news coming up at 4. And then at 4:03, it is, of course, Pastor Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church and his show, which is called Help Me.
View from Pew.
No, that's my show. What's his show called?
True Pink. True Blue.
True Blue. Thank you. You did that on purpose, you big bear. All right.
No, not me.
Where you want to go now?
He's
Mike?
an awesome person, by the way. Michael Mudloff.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's on this show about once a month.
He was on here last week. We had he and the other
Damascus on talking about the gay marriage issue. All right, I'm just going to be the voice on the other end. This is not my opinion. This is just the voice on the other side. We're never going to reverse gay marriage. Gay marriage is going to be as accepted as divorce in a matter before we see 2020.
I agree.
Okay. And abortion is never going to get turned around.
Disagree.
Really?
Disagree.
Okay.
I think things are turning more support towards pro-life because of what has happened with the catastrophe out on the East Coast. I think that is an issue that you said 20 years. I do believe, I think the younger generation is more pro-life, and I do think this is going to be an issue that will be will be changed.
Well, I think technology, I've said this before, I think technology is helping us on this issue. I think as I'm a 6-time grandfather, each one of my grandkids I have met before they ever came out in these sonograms. And the technology that demonstrates the crap that we were told back in the 70s with Roe v. Wade that was an unviable tissue mass and there was really nothing there, now it has been shown to even the younger generation, everybody out here, that that's a lie and that this is a human being in there and you have to treat it as some. And that's where we had Desmond Adams on here that one day, Mac, and I could not get him. He was running against Charles Schneider for the vacated seat. And I said, at what point does that become a viable human life deserving of the respect constitutionally that life is to be given? And I tried every which way I could. He wouldn't go on the record. And I think that's the Democrats. And I think the hypocrisy of that position is becoming increasingly apparent to the American public. And so, therefore, I agree with your comment that life is an issue that's coming our way.
I truly believe that.
Front page of the Des Moines Register this morning, above the fold. Not front page, I'm sorry, editorial. Register editorial board feels that the what was it? The abortions over the cameras is acceptable.
Webcam,
right?
Yeah.
Webcam. That's acceptable.
Where there's no physician present. That's disgusting.
That's right.
It's still killing human life. Okay. I don't care what it is. It's still killing.
All right, headphones on, guys. We couldn't have a good show without Frank coming on with us. All right, Frank, you're live in The View from a Pew. How you doing today, Frank? What's got you bugged?
Oh, good. I made it home just in time to yak to you.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Well, I think an interesting thing to watch will be the outcome of this Ariel Castro trial over in Ohio, where he was responsible for the unlawful termination of some pregnancies. And this country is going to have to come to grips with a fetus, an embryo's life, or it isn't. Because if this guy over here is charged with some murders, that's going to shoot some holes in the woman's right to choose lobby.
Well, and not only that, I remember back when Randy Peterson, is that the guy's name, who killed his wife out in San Francisco when she was pregnant, and he got charged with manslaughter for the baby and murder for her?
There have been some of those cases, yes. And you've said this for yourself many times on the show, Mac. How can you be consistent and say this is the taking of a life and the other is not?
Yeah.
And Brad's right. I mean, that ghoulish behavior out in Philadelphia, I mean, the Democrats were mute. And again, that shows the hypocrisy of this position. It's only one position, but if we could turn around the position of life, we might start to have a chance to have a spiritual awakening in this country. And so I agree with you, Brad, and I think that is a hope for us.
I've had many pastors tell me that they think that the turnaround in this country is going to come from a revival among the churches. That the churches are going to drive it, not the atheists, not the business world, not the politicians.
Boy,
that the church will
need it.
Finally stand up and say, that's it. I'm your pastor. That's it.
I said at the time when I came back to Iowa in '87, and I got after some pastors, some churches that asked me to speak in the late '80s. I said, you guys went to sleep. You let gambling come into the state. And I said, at one point, you would have just stood up and just howled. And you just went to sleep and let this thing happen. And now, of course, we've got more slot machines per capita than any place other than Nevada in the country. And Iowa at one point was a Bible Belt type of a state. And it's and that level. In fact, there was an article out today, Mac, that showed that the 5 highest states in the country by far were all casino states for public corruption. I go and bribe Brad, and he goes to jail. The ones that are the worst are the ones that are involved with the casinos.
Because there's so much money floating around.
Absolutely.
And money is tempting. All right. So good. I'm glad to hear you say that you think we're getting to the point where the genocide of unborn children is going to end in this country. Do you think we're going to have to, as Christians, are we going to have to settle for, rape and incest? We'll say that's okay? Or it can happen in the first.
I'm not going to get into that Todd Aiken battle.
4 to 5 weeks. You don't. All right. But so you think it's a black and white issue?
Yep.
Okay. Either life is sacred or it's not.
Correct.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're good enough to say I don't want to talk about that. Why is the Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman case considered a race-based? Well, you've got a Latino and you've got an African American.
I think it's unfortunate that that's happening.
I mean, I did a show today with some really good folks, and we've started a show once every couple of weeks talking about racism in Iowa. And these people are going to be in the streets if Zimmerman is found not guilty of murder. And the fact of the matter is, those of us that know the law, he never should have been charged with murder. He should have been charged with manslaughter.
Similar to the OJ thing.
Yeah, he's going to be found
guilty as sin, but if he'd have been found guilty, they'd have rioted over that.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. It's unfortunate a young person had to die, and I don't see what the jurors see, and I don't follow this case. I think I had on the TV the other day over the 4th of July. I saw pictures of the back of his head. He's all bloodied up and everything. And I really believe in our judicial system, with the exception of what happened with O.J. Simpson. But I do believe our judicial system will get to the bottom of it, and they'll make the right decision.
Well, I hope you're right.
It shouldn't be racial.
Well, my argument with my guest today was that racism in America as a society is dead. Now, there are still some individuals who are racist, but there's nothing about our society where we allow it. And I think the Paula Deen case kind of showed that.
And going back to the younger generation, my father and his generation were a little bit different on race. The younger generation, they don't see color. I don't see color. Yeah. I just don't see it.
Brad Zahn's been our guest today, along with Tom Coates, Father Tattoo producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Just do one thing for me before you're done today, before you lay your head on the pillow, before you say your prayers. Just look up and thank the good Lord for all the things you have. Make a gratitude list tonight about the things that you're grateful for in this great country called America. See you tomorrow.
Speaking of